the end of this video, you should have no fear of odd time signatures. You should feel comfortable starting to play in odd times, and you'll understand why if someone tells you that they were playing something in 13/7, they're full of it and don't know what they're talking about. The only prerequisite is to know what measures are and what quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes are. That's it. As long as you know those, you should feel totally comfortable understanding odd time signatures. And this is one of those concepts that can be intimidating for folks, especially those that were self-taught or didn't do a lot of theory in school. And this is compounded by the fact that musicians, for whatever reason, are kind of like weird and gatekeepy about odd time signatures and hold it up as this like advanced concept. And we forget sometimes that the whole point of music theory is to make music easier to understand, not more complicated. So if you're learning some sort of music theory and it seems like it's making the thing more complicated, something has gone wrong. Because again, music theory is supposed to make music easier to understand, not harder. So let me break it down for you. Odd time signatures are so much simpler than most people make them out to be. Again, as long as you know what measures are, quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes, we're good. What an odd time signature tells you, with the top number and the bottom number, is how many of what type of note is in each measure. That's it. So if we consider 4/4 or 4/4 time, that means that there are 4 quarter notes per measure. Similarly, if we took an odd time signature like 7/8, that means that there are going to be 7 eighth notes worth of time per measure. Now, this doesn't actually tell you what the music is going to sound like. It's just the container that the music lives within. It's just the point at which you start counting again. And just in the same way that there's an infinite number of possible rhythms and types of music that you could hear in 4/4 time, it's the same thing with 7/8, 5/4, 3/4. Any odd time could really sound like anything. So this answers the question, why is it that if someone tells you, oh yeah, I was listening to some music that was in 13/7 last night, they are BSing you? Why? Because that would mean that the song they were listening to had 13 seventh notes per measure. Now, yes, mathematically, this is technically possible, but it is so far afield from the reasonable realm of music that we would actually notate and that we would actually listen to. There's just very, very low probability that that's the case. You are almost always going to see either 4, 8, or 16 as that bottom number, referring to quarter notes, eighth notes, or 16th notes. So hopefully that takes some of the mystery out of what odd time signatures are. But to go even further than that, it also shouldn't be terribly complicated to start to play in odd time signatures. What we're going to do if we're going to play in, let's say, 7/8, meaning that there are going to be 7 eighth notes per measure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play something simple that I might typically play in 4/4. So I'm going to play the basic rock beat, cat, cat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to count out loud eighth notes, which is going to correspond with my hi-hat. My hi-hat's going to be playing eighth notes. So I'm going to lock in with my hi-hat and I'm going to count 7 eighth notes. And then as soon as I hit 7, I'm going to restart. I'm going to start right back at the beginning. And that is going to give me my basic rock beat, but in 7/8. Here's what that'll sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pro tip here, you'll notice that I was saying sev rather than 7. Sometimes that gets confusing because there are 2 syllables in 7. Sometimes people go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then they end up playing in 4/4 anyways. So anyways, if you're going to count up to 7, just count sev. So that's the simplest way to just start playing drums in any odd time signature, 7/8 being the example here. And you could do the same thing on bass, guitar, right? You could just play whatever chord progression you might be playing already, but just fit it into those 7/8 measures. So you might count out loud, boom, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, boom, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, boom, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, boom, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom, right? Something to that effect. I want to emphasize that the counting out loud is super, super important, and you can definitely take this slower than I did. This is something that if you haven't done it before, it won't come naturally. It will feel weird, but you will be amazed if you count out loud at how quickly you start to get used to that little hiccup and where a 7/8 measure starts over. Once you're playing a basic groove in 7/8, now we can start expanding and putting your drumming into this now slightly shorter container of time. And one of the really common misconceptions is that when you start learning odd time signatures, that you're gonna have to start learning all new beats and all new fills and all new grooves, right? That's like, oh, I've got my 4/4 vocabulary, and now I'm gonna have to learn like a 7/8 groove. The reality is that all of your drumming still exists. You just need to make it an eighth note shorter if you're in 7/8. So any of the stuff that you might already do as a drummer, just fit it into 7/8. Once you get good at counting it out loud and starting over when you hit the end, you can add any sort of variation that you might typically in 4/4, just fit it into 7/8. So here's what something like that might sound like. So there's just an example of the kind of stuff I would play in 4/4. I'm just phrasing it in 7/8. So let's use another example like 5/4. So 5/4 would mean that there are going to be 5 quarter notes per measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count out loud. This time I'm going to be counting quarter notes. I'm going to take my basic rock beat, I'm going to count quarter notes, and when I get to 5, I'm going to start over. Here's what that'll sound like. Easy, we're playing in 5/4. And once again, you can start adding variations and you can start adding your own drumming. So what you might do is you might start simple. Maybe instead of having that kick at the end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe you just add an extra snare on 5. So let me try just adding some simple variations to 5/4. So we're talking relatively simple variations. The only thing that's different is I'm just adding an extra quarter note at the end. Now, I don't mean to imply that this should come naturally or that even though it's simple to understand, that it's necessarily easy to play. It will feel weird and it will definitely feel uncomfortable, but think about how long you've spent playing 4/4 and how ingrained that is and how considerably less time you've spent in 5/4, 7/8, or 6/8, or whatever the time signature might be. And give yourself a little grace and give yourself some time to just sit in some of these new odd time signatures. And I promise you, you'll start to get familiar with them quicker than you'd think. Okay, let's do one more example. And let's say that you had something truly frightening, truly heinous, like 15/16. Let's say someone says, hey, I just wrote this riff in 15/16. Love for you to play on the track. You should not be afraid. Do not be afraid of any odd time signature. Again, let's just break it down and then we'll work on playing it together. So 15/16 means that there are going to be 15 16th notes per measure. So what that means is because there's usually 16 16th notes per measure, we are just chopping off the at the end of 4. So instead of counting 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and we're gonna count 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and and then we're gonna start over again. So this is gonna sound a little bit strange, but I promise you it's easier than going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Instead, we're just gonna count 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and. Suddenly we're counting in 15/16. So how can we start to play this? It's the same process that we've used with 7/8 and 5/4. Instead, now I'm going to play a 16th note groove. I'm going to play it a little bit slower, and I'm going to play like a halftime sort of thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to count like we just did, and when I get to the and of 4, I'm going to leave off that on 4, and I'm just going to restart. Here's what that's going to sound like. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 2E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 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 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 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 2E and a 3E and And what do you know? We're playing in 15/16. It doesn't need to be that complicated. Now, I didn't promise you that it was going to sound cool or that it wasn't going to sound weird. Yeah, that sounds weird. And that's why it takes a very particular kind of song written in a particular kind of way to work with that kind of groove. And depending on the cadence and the specific rhythm of a song that you're playing in an on time signature, you might feel it or count it slightly differently. So like with this 15/16 thing, sort of what I'm doing is I'm just feeling like a normal 4/4 groove, and then I'm just feeling da 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 on 4. So I'm kind of thinking 1, 2, 3, da da da, 1, 2, 3, da da da. Now, feeling it that way wouldn't work with certain songs, but just while it's me drumming here, that's sort of a good cheat code for me to be able to feel 15/16 more easily. So once again, let me see if I can play some of the stuff that I might typically play, but fit it into 15/16. Wish me luck. A little bit dicey, but we got through it. So hopefully by now you aren't intimidated by odd time signatures. It's not that they should be easy to play. It takes time and it takes practice to get comfortable in different odd times. And it's not like I'm a master of all odd time signatures, but we shouldn't be afraid of the concept. And all too often it seems like music students and musicians of all sorts will sort of hold this concept over other people's heads like, oh yeah, odd time signatures, it's this big scary thing. It shouldn't be any more complex than it needs to be. And again, the point of music theory is to make music easier to understand, not harder. So I really hope that helped. Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.